I think we're live.
All right, we're live. Here's the what is this, Blake? Is this the Lawrenceburg?
Thank you, Charlotte. This
The local
is
law enforcement hour
with Sheriff John Myers.
and Captain Blake Grooms. Let's hear your disclaimer.
So, for all of our listeners, loyal listeners out there, I know this is getting old, but I will be sharing some opinions and views with you today, and they are just that, my opinions and views. In no way, shape, or form are they supposed to reflect any type of stance or opinion that the city of Lawrenceburg has or the Lawrenceburg Police Department.
You know, I guess I could get in the habit of saying that myself. I mean, technically, I have a boss. I mean, it's the people of the county.
Well, right, yeah.
But, I mean, in reality, I don't report to anybody. So, nah, I ain't going to do it. I ain't messing with it. Lindsay, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Thank you very much.
We've got Lindsay from the kids' place. We're going to be interrogating here in a little while. Hope you're ready. We're going to have some phone lines open at about 30 minutes?
In about 30 minutes, it's something new that
so
we've got
if you want to
going
call in and talk to Blake or Lindsay, don't call for me because I'm not in the mood. But you can call one of y'all and y'all can answer some questions about the kids' place or about the city of Lawrenceburg.
So you just gonna throw me out there?
Was you at the state of the county?
No, sir, I was not. I had a family.
Don't care?
No, I do care. I care very much so. I had a family issue that I could not break away from, so I didn't get to go.
Family issue.
Yes, sir.
It's a very vague excuse.
Well, if I went into detail, my wife would probably kill me, and that woman's mean.
It's like when a woman says, I've got a female issue, she can always be off work. No guy ever asked any questions, you know?
No.
Hey, are you coming into work? Well, I'm having a female issue. No problem. Take off the whole week.
Right. Hey, I'll go even further. So I have supervised more females at the PD than any other supervisor. And they didn't even have to go that far. If they just called and be like, hey, Cap, I need to take off today. I'd be like, I hope you have a better day. Call me if you need anything. Yep. That's as far as I went with it, you know.
You said he wasn't smart.
Well, I have 6 sisters.
Oh.
So I got beat.
So you were well trained.
Got beat
or
up.
Beats more like. I mean, yeah, I guess you can beat somebody into submission.
I saw one of your ex-employees, I saw her today, Anna. I don't know if you've seen her.
I seen her earlier.
Today.
Yeah.
So I got a call from one of the local offices here in town, government offices, and there was a vehicle parked behind their building, and it had been there for a while, and so it looked a little suspect. So I went over and run the plate, and it didn't help. But we don't have those little
LPRs.
A what?
LPR, license plate readers.
You're not even nowhere near what I was going to say. Daggum, here you go, jumping the gun. No, the little stickers that you put on the vehicle that says we're about to tow your crap. I don't know, what are they called?
The orange sticker?
Yeah, the orange one. What are they called?
The little orange towaway sticker.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're about to tow your crap.
Right.
We don't have them anymore. And so I run into one of your guys, and y'all don't have them anymore. So I remembered seeing Anna coming up West Gaines, and I got her number and called her, and I said, I know you guys.
Right.
So I asked her to come put a sticker on that guy's truck, and she said she did. Or would.
Good. So, you know what? I'm proud of that girl. She's come a long way, and she's done really well for herself. And I know she's a new trooper.
Yeah, she'll do good.
And she's doing all right.
She'll do good.
So,
but no, the state. No, don't get me off track here. I want to talk about the state of the county. It's important.
You want to move over this way? He's a little touchy today. I apologize.
No, it was a really good thing. So the Chamber of Commerce put it on. And they invited me and some of the other elected officials. We had David Morgan was there, Blake Lay was there, the mayor from St. Joe, the mayor from Loretta, and a few other people. And we just kind of updated the county on what's going on, you know. So I talked a little bit about the sheriff's office and what we've got going on. But I opened up with talking about how good it is right now in Lawrence County. If it wasn't all that long ago when Lawrence County was not known to be the good little county in southern middle Tennessee that was growing and a lot of good things were happening. Wasn't all that long ago, we didn't have the best of reputations. What I'm trying to say.
That went on for a while.
Yeah. So, but right now it's good. It's real good. And the reason why is because pretty much all of us get along. I mean, I mentioned, the 18 commissioners, the majority of the commissioners I call friends. The other elected officials in county government I call friends. I have them all on my phone. I mean, I can call them day or night. And the city administrators, the city councilmen, the city managers, the mayors, I mean, we all pretty much get along in this county. And I talked a little bit about how in the other counties, how I go and sit down with some of the other sheriffs across the state. And we sit around and chew the fat, really is what it is. They call it social networking, but I call it shooting the bull. But anyway, you get caught up on some of the things around the state. And golly, there's some counties out there that have some major problems with internal stuff and with government stuff, and to hear their horror stories. And I just say, we don't have that. And everything runs pretty good in our little county. But anyway, I talked a little bit about the sheriff's office and how things are going there, and gave them a few stats and talked a little bit about the calls that we've answered. And I mean, it went over really good, and there was a good crowd there. So,
Was there?
Yeah, it was very informative. I mean, I even learned a little bit of stuff sitting around listening to the mayors talk a little bit. But no, it was good. You should have been there.
Well,
if you would have been there, you would have known, but
Right.
you wasn't.
I mean, since I wasn't, you can give us an update to the update of the state of the county. I mean,
The county's in really good shape.
we do have an hour.
Oh, well, it's in really good shape, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
But now, what's been going on in the city? Now, why am I asking you that? You just said that you hadn't worked in 3 months.
That was not true. You had, oh my goodness. What's in his cup?
I didn't
What?
test it.
Lordy mercy.
Just died, sir.
Yes.
Diet soda.
I'm anxious to be back at work.
When are you coming back to
I
work?
don't know that, Sheriff. As soon I will know more on the 24th. So, without violating HIPAA, that's all I got right now. Okay.
You got more excuses today than I've ever heard in my life.
Well, I'm sorry. You're touchy. I'm over here on the offense.
And you just come from the dentist, too.
I'm struggling just to be able to talk clearly.
3-hour root canal.
Oh my gosh.
Did you hear about our drug bust over on, what's the apartments on, what is that, Old Florence? South of the square?
Yeah, okay. Well, so on like right before you get to Centerstone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Old Florence Road.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's Old Florence Road.
Yeah, the apartments.
Yeah,
down
we used to
on the
call
right.
them McKissick apartments back in the day, but they've been
I
sold.
don't know what
50.
it is now.
No, I did hear about it. Your narcotics investigator, Ray Crane, sent me a couple trophy pics, and
Yeah, I'm gonna put those on our
that
Facebook page.
that was a pretty
later
good
on.
lick, you know.
It was. We stung them.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we stung them. That was last Thursday, I think. What is this? Thursday?
This is Thursday. Yeah,
maybe it was Monday or I can't remember. My days all run together. It was the other day.
But either way, look, hats off to your boys. They showed up and showed out. That was a good lick, no matter what entity got it.
Oh yeah.
You know,
yeah,
I'm very, very thankful y'all hit that lick.
That woman was responsible for moving a lot of fentanyl and a lot of meth. And let me tell you something. I got to talk about this real quick. There was some drugs, and I don't know what it was. I mean, most of my career has been in drug enforcement. But there was something that was in a little baggie that didn't look like anything that I had ever seen in my life. It was the nastiest looking. It looked like creek gravel and some dirt and a rotten tooth. I don't know what it was. And we was sitting there on the back of on the tailgate looking at it and weighing it up and stuff. And I got my gloves on and I look at that and I said, what is this? Nobody knew. And all I know is that if I was a drug addict and I went to this house to buy something and they come out and gave me that, I wouldn't have even done it.
Yeah.
Even if I was a drug addict.
Yeah, I'm sitting here
It
looking
looked
at
that
it.
bad. Do you see it?
Yeah, I do.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what it tested positive for.
And you're old, so if you've not seen anything like that, then that's definitely got to be different.
I don't know how to take that. But anyway, it didn't look good.
But
I wouldn't have smoked it, shot it, snorted it, whatever they do.
listen, we got people out here smoking wasp spray. Okay, are you really surprised that they've got stuff in baggies that we can't readily
That's
identify?
true. That's
It's-
true. All right, we're going to change gears. I know Lindsay's been patiently waiting on us to talk about the kids' place. So I'm going to apologize before we get started for dropping this on you as late as I did, because I've been trying all week to go by there and see if I could get you or somebody from the kids' place come sit in and talk a little bit about it. And I can't remember my name half the time.
He's not lying.
Well,
So anyway, I showed up today. I showed up today
You
and
showed up today. You
yeah,
didn't have
today,
this
and I said, "Does anybody want
No,
to come on the show
no.
later?" And they said, "When?" And I said, "Today." She's like,
So,
"Well, I guess I can't."
VIP player right here.
So what? So what do you do? What do you do? What's your official title at the
My
kids' place?
title is Community Awareness and Development Manager.
And what does that entail?
That just means that it's my job to go out in the community. A lot of people don't know we exist, or they've heard of us, but they don't really know what we do. So my job is really just bring some awareness. People need to understand the work that we do, the need for the work that we do.
Absolutely.
And then, if they know about us, they can help us and we can help them. One of the things I also do is bring free education to anybody and everybody, young and old, on how to spot signs of abuse and what you can do within your organization, your church, whatever it is, policies that you need to set up so that kids don't get into circumstances and adults don't get into circumstances with children that could end badly.
Now, is the office that y'all have on West Point Road, is that your only office?
No, sir. We cover 4 counties, so we're in Lawrence, Wayne, Giles, and Murray, and we have a center in every one of those counties. So Lawrence County has most of our staff is housed out of there, and then we have a couple of girls who stay in our Murray County Center full time, but we go where we're needed.
Where do you get y'all's funding at? Donations?
Yeah, we are blessed to have a lot of support here in Lawrence County, and so we have organizations and businesses, and then just the public who give in monthly or big one-time donations. We do a little bit of grant funding. We'll take it from wherever it'll come.
Absolutely.
As a nonprofit, you're not too choosy.
So, give us the short version. Give us the one pager
Ooh.
on what the kids' place does.
Okay. So we work hand in hand with our local law enforcement and Child Protective Services when there are allegations of severe child abuse. And so most kids at the beginning of any of those investigations, they come to Kids Place, and we have trained forensic interviewers who will do an interview, just a conversation with a kid to try to obtain factual information about what has or maybe hasn't happened. Whatever those allegations are, we're trying to get to the bottom of it. So that's the first entrance into our facility. We have child and family advocates who, thank goodness, are there to sort of walk that child and their caregivers through the whole process. Because if you can imagine, put your parent hat on, how devastating that would be to think that something has happened to your kid. And I don't know the system. Usually, most parents don't. They don't know the process, and so we walk that whole process with them hand in hand, get them any other resources they may need, because unfortunately for some of our families, this isn't the only thing going on in their life that's hard. And I need that caregiver to be 100% behind their kid when something like this happens. So anything else we can take off the table, if you're struggling paying bills or you need your own mental health services or whatever the case may be, we're going to try to hook you up and figure out what we can do. And then we have free trauma-focused therapy for these kids. And they can stay with us as long as they're, up until the age of 18. If they graduate out doing well, but something later down the road kind of triggers, something happens, whatever, they're welcome to come back to us. So those are our direct services. And then they, myself and another gal, we go out in the community and do some of those indirect services, prevention work and that kind of thing.
So, for example, if we get a complaint of some kind of child abuse. And everything starts with a report. You know, a uniformed deputy normally takes the report, and then it's handed off to an investigator. At what point do y'all have access to the reporting system so you can see what's being reported, or do y'all work with the DA's office to find out
Right.
when a case is coming up? Or?
That's a good question. So, whoever your investigators are with law enforcement or the investigator with Department of Children's Services, they will reach out to us directly to set up that forensic interview. We don't have direct access to the reports and stuff, but they should be trained and know that first call is to us to set up that forensic interview.
You know, this is one of the assets in our county that I don't think the general public has a clue on how valuable it is. It's one of them things. Whenever you get a call as a detective, which I'm no longer a detective anymore, but you never wanted that call that there's been a child hurt. And, you know, for our listeners out there, when we say child abuse, we're not just talking about hitting a 2-year-old in the face with a baseball bat. The imagination can, you know, is self-explanatory. So you don't want that call and hear how awful a child has been abused. But on the flip side of it, whenever you get that call as a detective, you know you've got the kid's place that's got your back and is going to temporarily take the reins with this child and potentially get you information that the normal dumb cop in this world couldn't get. Because let me tell you something, these people out here at the kids' place, they're phenomenal.
Well, so I
Phenomenal.
take it y'all have to go through some advanced training on how to use your interview techniques with it. This is something that I've never done in law enforcement. I've never investigated a child sex abuse or any kind of child abuse. Never done it in my whole
It's
career.
amazing.
So this is all, it's all new to me. I'm learning stuff tonight myself.
Yeah.
I can tell you something though, and here I am. I'm gonna get off on a little bit of a story real quick.
He does this a lot.
I warned her. I warned her.
lot.
My shirt looks so good.
He's got,
Y'all see my new shirt? Gulf of America. Anyway, so
I think my sister's got that shirt.
so this is a long time. This was in '98 or '99, and I'm working the interstate, and we're looking for contraband. That's what we look for. We look for the couriers transporting large amounts of drugs or money. And I remember I was sitting watching southbound traffic in Giles County one evening, and this truck comes by with 2 guys in it, out of state plates. The indicators were present when they drove by, so it looked like a stop that I needed to conduct. So I got them on the shoulder for a traffic violation, and I'm getting all the indicators as I'm talking to them that they're being deceptive, and I can see their anxiety levels start to go up. So I know they're hiding something. And I go into a search mode and gain consent reluctantly. The guy gives me consent, but he does give me consent. And so I'm by myself at this time. The guy that was working with me was just up the road, and I let him know that I was about to go into a search. And so he said, "Well, I'll be up there in just a minute." So I was kind of waiting on him to get there before I really started tearing this truck apart. But it was a single cab pickup, and I'm at the passenger side, and they're both at the front of my vehicle watching me, and I'm just kind of scanning what's in there. While I see a first aid kit, a white plastic first aid kit behind the seat. And so I just reach down and I pick it up and I pop it open. When I pop it open, the very first Polaroid that I saw was a kid giving oral sex to this guy that's standing in front of my vehicle.
Wow.
And I can just remember, my mama used to call it going flash mad. I just went flash mad. And I think there wound up being 30 or 40 Polaroids in this first aid kit. And I set it back down in the seat. And right when I set it back down in the seat, I seen Shane Fisher, sheriff in Wayne County now. He was working with me on interstate. He pulled up and he got out, and as he's walking up towards the rear of my vehicle, I'm walking up towards the front, and he could see the look on my face, and he thought I'd already found a load of dope or something. So he unholsters, and I said, and I told him, I said, put some cuffs on both of them. And I grabbed the one, and I walked him around the front of the car, and I pushed him down on the hood of the car, and I was holding him there. For whatever reason, I didn't have my handcuffs, and Shane come around there and cuffed him, and he said, what'd you get? What'd you get? Did you get a load? And I'm like, no, I didn't get a load of dope. I didn't get any currency. I didn't get any firearms. I didn't get nothing. I said, go look in the front seat in that first aid kit. And he walked up there, and it was literally both. If I've always said this, if he wouldn't have pulled up at that time, he probably saved those guys' lives. That one.
Oh, I can see that.
Yeah. So long story short, we arrest them, and we're able to find out they had Indiana or Illinois tags. We could identify 5 or 6 different kids in these pictures, and we called the authorities in the town that the tags come back to, because he was being totally uncooperative, and talked to a sheriff's deputy up there in this town. And they had been after this guy for years. He was living in this camper lot, and they knew they'd been getting the complaints, and they knew what he was doing, but they never had enough evidence to charge him. And I said, well, I got the evidence.
Right.
So we and this is, we had to fax pictures to them, and they said, yeah, this is the kids, So we gave them what they needed. So we charged them, I think, with 30-something counts of child exploitation or whatever, and he got like 18 years or something. But Indiana had the big charges on him, and so when he wrapped up his time, if he lived in Tennessee, he was going to Indiana to answer for those. But that was, even though that was, I remember that case probably more than any of the cases that I made out there on the interstate, because it was, I felt I was on top of the world when I caught this dude. I was on top of the world. It could have been a quarter ton of coke, that I took off the interstate, and I wouldn't have felt any better. Just getting that guy and getting him in prison, it was like the best thing ever. But anyway, I got off on that story. But I've never worked child sex abuse or any kind of
You should sit in on one of those.
And you should, because it's interesting. It's not fun by no means. For example, I'll never forget. I was working a rape case of a 16-month-old little boy that was his father had abused him to the point where they thought the little boy was going to have a colostomy bag for the rest of his life. So, like normal, whenever we get a case, it goes to the kid's place for the review board. And although you can't interview the 16-month-old child, it still has to go to the review board. And we're getting ready to have our meeting, sip it. And I remember...
I'll tell him what that is.
Well, I'll let you give the formal explanation of that. So, and one of the DCS investigators is flipping through some photos that they had just been sent from Vanderbilt. And without going into graphic detail, when I looked down, I was like, oh my gosh. What case is this? What case is this? And then she just looks up at me and she goes, this is your case. This was that 16-month-old baby. And listen, Sheriff, it was like, man, I've never seen one forensic interview lead a child. And they're trained in this specific way to do that, because only the child can tell their story, and less than 2% lie. 98% of the children that walk into their facility or facilities alike around the nation, 98% of them are spot on telling the truth. You can take it to the bank just as if Jesus wrote it in Scripture.
Yeah, well, that's expected.
And they're good. Yeah. They're good. So
so what's one of your most memorable that you've?
Well,
it's got to. Even though it's a tough job, and I can imagine sitting in those interviews, I mean, it's got to be you got to be a special kind of person to do that all the time. But it's got to be a pretty good sense of fulfillment when you catch one of
Yes.
these pieces of
Oh
garbage
yeah.
and lock them up.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, just having a kid sit in a room and, you know, they come in, as you can probably imagine, scared to death. They don't know what that's going to look like. They only have what they've seen on TV when they're usually in a police station and, you know, that kind of thing. It's very child-friendly environment. And like he said, there's a lot of rapport building that goes on before we ask kids to kind of move into that topic of concern. And just seeing a kid lighten up and realize, like, this is somebody I can trust with this kind of information. Most of our kids do open up, you know, not all of them are ready, but when they do, when they trust you enough with that kind of information, because you got to imagine they're scared to death to tell you. You know, there's a lot of fear and shame and all of that goes behind it. A lot of that's from the perpetrator, you know. So just sitting in a room with a kid you see relax and start to open up with you is just a sense of achievement right there, because whether they actually tell me anything or everything, just knowing that they finally feel heard and believed and cared for means a lot. And so we always tell people, like, when the kids come to us, the end all be all isn't always that kid discloses in that interview. Sometimes they're just not ready, and we don't ever pressure a kid, because I don't know what they're going through, what might happen if they do tell. Like, they have their own life that I'm not a part of. And so you got to be really careful with these kids and their hearts and their minds and stuff. So one story that sticks out, I don't know, because to me, one of the things I think that made me a good interviewer at the time when I did that was a little bit of, what's the word when you can kind of contain some of that? Well, it went right out of my head.
As far as the information that you
Well, just being able to not take it home with me every time.
okay.
You know,
So,
compartmentalize.
right,
That's the
there you
word
go.
I'm looking for.
He would have never. He wouldn't. I knew what you was wanting to say. I mean,
You know, I
almost
was able
said-
to do that pretty well. Leave it at the office. But people like you who did the investigating, you know, you continue to have a lot of interactions with those families afterwards, and our DCS folks and our DAs, all of them, and our therapists. They all kind of continue that. You know, it's easier for me, I thought, as an interviewer, to spend hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever time it took, and then just sort of hand over everything we found that day to somebody else, and then I could go home.
I talk about all the time about people in this county. They're detached. They don't know some of the evil stuff that we see in this county. They don't know.
tell me about it.
And you know, when somebody buys my lunch or buys one of my deputies lunch or something, they come up and tap them on the shoulder and say, "Hey, we just appreciate that." That's the kind of stuff that we see and that we deal with that Joe Citizen don't know. And I mean, yeah, for the most part, we've got a safe, quiet little town, but we've also got this kind of stuff going on
Every day.
all the time.
Every day.
There's some sick freaking people in this county now.
And you mentioned, you know, even back 98, 99, when you pulled that guy over and the 16-month-old, like, those are sex abuse cases. And that's really the majority of what we see. And I think people don't, you know, when you think child abuse, they do tend to think towards the physical. And we do see that. But most of our cases have a sexual nature to them.
Y'all handle child neglect cases too, right? Or no?
Not as much. That's usually more Department of Children's Services. But the thing with a lot of these cases is there's a lot of polyvictimization. So you might have a child with neglect.
Explain that for like you don't know what that means.
He shook his head like you knew.
All right, I don't know what it means.
There you go.
So yeah, our kids are
What'd you call it?
polyvictimization. So there's multiple
offenses on the same victim.
Yeah. Thank you. Good job.
That's right. Yeah.
So we all, you know, if I'm in an interview and I have an allegation of sexual abuse, I may also ask about other things that we know could possibly be a part of their life too. And that might include neglect. So while you have the opportunity, try not to leave any stone unturned. Because
Listen, you've got to go over there. Okay. And obviously the public can't, and rightfully so. But you've got to go over and watch these ladies work. How they can again meet a total little stranger and build a rapport and have these young people trust these ladies enough to disclose the truth. And one of the things that I love the most that they do is right off the bat, they determine on whether or not a child is mature enough to tell the truth. To ask, is this a question, and is this made up, or is this the truth? And then ask another question, is this made up, or is this the truth? They build a foundation on whether or not the child can tell the truth. And then, the interviewers, they are filled in a little bit on what the backstory is, and so they know what the allegation is. But again, they don't bring that up to the table. They let the young child tell their own story, and it's absolute. It is. You're exactly right. It's an art. Just as a detective can go in and try to obtain a confession. Ted Bundy, for instance, to go in and obtain a confession from an offender, that's a great feeling. But to watch these ladies work and obtain a story and a disclosure from these young victims, I mean, you just sit back and you're like, you're literally watching somebody, a master at their craft.
You're probably right. I probably do need to.
You do. It's amazing.
The want to might not be there.
Oh, you're right. Okay, so
I'm telling you, man, my fuse has gotten a lot shorter.
Yeah, you want to go.
Years.
You want to go kill somebody? I promise.
My tolerance level.
You're not undifferent than the families when they hear that. This actually happened. We have to really talk some dads and some moms really down and say, you go and kill this guy now, and you don't let the law enforcement do that. Then what else have you done to your kid? Like, they've already had this horrible thing happen. Right. They're going to lose their dad now to go to jail.
And if that person has offended on your child, the likelihood that he has offended on another child that we haven't identified yet as a victim. That's why I know you want to kill him. I want to kill him too.
I never said kill him.
No, I believe you kind of went there.
I'm thinking more along the lines of dismembering them, keeping them alive.
So here's the thing about that.
You sure you don't need a disclaimer?
Yeah, right. He'll be giving one at the end.
People are used to it. They.
So you all the time, and that's one of the main things that the public has always asked me whenever they've talked to me about working these kid cases. How do you keep from killing them? And that has always been my biggest reply, is if I go kill him, I'll never know if there's another victim out there that needs help. Okay? And that's the most important thing, because as this young lady knows, statistically, I don't remember the number, but the likelihood that a victim will grow up and become an offender themselves if they don't receive the proper help is pretty dadgum big. I don't remember the number. It was staggering. But when you have a young victim that never gets the help, never gets the services, never gets somewhat of some closure, the likelihood that they'll grow up and offend on other young people themselves, it's, yeah.
May I make 2 points to kind of what you said? So you're right. Like the opportunity is kind of there if they don't get the help. I want to kind of make a disclaimer that if you have been the victim of some of this, now we're not saying that you are going to grow up to be an offender.
Absolutely.
We have plenty of victims who don't do anything near that, and they actually advocate and do a lot of good work in the communities. Had a second thought. Now it left me.
It's gone.
That's how that
you
goes.
pulled a Myers. That's called a Myers.
Maybe it'll come back.
If she stopped and tells a story, she's really pulled a Myers. But for right now, she just lost her train of thought. But you're right. Not every victim becomes an offender. And the statistics, female victims versus male victims, there's quite a bit of difference on that. But the point is, I think what we're trying to take away here is if we got victims out there, we need to get them some help. It doesn't matter if they're 2 or if they're 42. If you've been a victim of abuse, whether it's sexual or an assaultive crime, if you need help, we've got resources. Man, Lawrence County is very lucky, because for forever Wayne County didn't have a facility, Giles County didn't have a facility. The hard work that the Lawrence County office has put in to make sure that our surrounding areas not only have access but now have local access for this help is outstanding.
Yeah, I can't imagine trying to do this 20 plus years ago and not having somebody like the kids' place to lean on.
Well, it
'Cause-
used to be a lot harder for our kids because, as you can imagine, there are a lot of agencies that need to understand what happened. And so, before child advocacy centers came along, you would have a child, let's just throw a scenario out there, who discloses to a teacher at school. And so then that teacher starts asking all the questions. So that child's told that story once. And then they go to the principal, and the principal's like, well, I need to know what all
Right.
happened. And they'll talk to the principal.
Then they'll call the police.
Then they'll call the police. Police will ask them to come down to the station. Scary. Need to know everything that happened. Then they might call children's services. Now that person they might have to go for a medical. Now you got a nurse or a doctor ask. They would have to talk multiple times about their trauma and just re-traumatize. And finally, some child said, do y'all not talk to each other? And, it's like a light bulb. It takes a child to say, well, there's probably a better way to do this. And so that's exactly what happened. Somebody decided there needed to be a better way. And so now it's kind of like what we call a one-stop shop. So we try to bring all of those people into the Child Advocacy Center, CAC we use for short, so that child does sit in that interview one time. You've got the agencies that need to hear what that child has to say. They're watching from another room. And that interviewer is able to take a break and go talk to them because obviously the law better than an interviewer will. And Child Protective Services knows what they're looking for more than an interviewer does. And so we just check in and try to make sure that every question we could ask is asked in that one time instead of having to bring kids back.
And do you know what one of the best things I love about all this is it takes the police out of the equation of asking the questions. Because, he's been in law enforcement like 45 years. The longer you go in law enforcement, it's easier to become hard-hearted, to callous and cold. And that is one of the last people you want speaking with a child about a serious offense that has occurred in their life. So I love it. This is one of the situations that I loved being removed from. Letting the experts, who are a lot more kind, a lot more loving, talk to the young child and get the information that we so desperately need.
So I'm looking at this TCA, and I didn't know this up until after I became sheriff, that it is a criminal offense to know about child abuse and not report it. I didn't know that. It's a criminal offense. So if you know of any kind of sex abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, any kind of child abuse, you have to report it. Am I right in saying that?
And it's a shame that we should have to have a law on the books, to bring that stuff together. You would think anybody in their right mind that had information that a child had been hurt, that they would come forward. Because at the end of the day, the youngins that's our greatest asset. That's the stuff that we protect the most, and why we have to have a law on the books that says if you don't do what you're supposed to, especially when it comes to a child that's been hurt, we're gonna lock you up. And rightfully so, we should.
In Tennessee, 18 years old or older, you're a mandated reporter, and that's what that law is saying. So a lot of people say, oh, well, that's only if you're in certain professions. Not in Tennessee.
No.
You know something, you have to speak up.
Yeah, if you don't report it and we know you knew about it and didn't report it, then we're going to charge you. Rightfully so.
There's a case I was working, and I can't go into great detail, where after I got a conviction on this guy, I went back and interviewed him again in prison. And because there was another allegation in another jurisdiction. And long story short, this guy ends up confessing to almost 100 offenses in this area, that we're talking about. And the thing that blew me away was not that he had offended on another child, estimated 100 times. He told me that his daddy knew every bit of it. And you talk again, going flash mad. I had to to contain everything in my body, not to just take that table and break it across his face. But I sat there and I listened to him, and hopefully now that person will have justice coming to them, because as a father, I cannot imagine standing by and knowing that somebody was hurting my child.
On average, how many interviews do y'all do a month?
Well, I would have had probably a good estimate for that.
If she'd have had more time.
Yeah, a little bit more time. I will say and I'm going to speak, this was something that Charles C., our executive director, shared. In Giles County, in the number of interviews that we have done from January to now is the same amount that we did last year, all year long. So when I tell you that right now our kids are under attack, they are under attack.
So you said you've already had more interviews this year?
For Giles County, for sure.
From January to now than you did the entire year of 2024?
For that county. Well, for that county.
Oh, my
But
gosh.
but we are seeing a huge uptick kind of across the board, but I just knew she had pulled that out the other day.
So let's talk a little bit, and we're going to get off this here in a minute and talk about something a little bit lighter, because this depresses me. But I don't know how you do it every day. But
Well,
let's
good
talk.
information to have. Again, because people don't know or they don't want to know. It's hard to say sometimes because this is hard conversation. People don't want to talk about
Can you
it.
tell us what maybe some red flags or some indicators would be that family members or strangers can identify of an abused kid, other than, a black eye or,
Right. Yeah, well, your physical signs, they're pretty apparent most of the time. It's the sex abuse ones where you've got kids who maybe once enjoyed going to somebody's house, now they don't want to. And they may not tell you why, but I don't like them anymore. I don't want to go. For some of your kids, there may be some regression, some bedwetting or little baby acting kind of stuff. Believe it or not, some kids achieve more. Like if you think about, some people say, well, my kid's grades dropped dramatically. Well, that's an indicator. But it could also be a kid now suddenly that was maybe average is like excelling in everything. And if you think about it, when you can't control one thing that's happening in your life and it's horrible, well, what can I control? Mm-hmm. Everything else. And so all of a sudden plus they don't want to get found out. And nobody looks at the kid who seems in life to be doing everything well. So it's hard. Some of these things are really hard. What I like to tell parents and caregivers is know your kids, spend time with your kids. And online right now, guys, online is,
get them kids off of
them
tablets and cell phones. I'm in favor of the idea that you can't have a cell phone till you're 18. That's just it. Mm-hmm. How many times have I said it? When a 10-year-old can pick up a phone and see what a 10-year-old in Compton, California is doing, we've got problems.
Yeah, but that's, you're never going to, that's the times we live in.
Yeah. But like when I was growing up, when you guys were growing up, I'm sure like your parents, if you were going to go out somewhere, well, who you going to be with? Mm-hmm. When you going to be home?
Right.
What are you going to be doing? Like, you asked all these questions. We can still ask those questions of our kids online. Like, where are you going online? Who are you talking to online? How long are you going to be online? Mm-hmm. And I'm going to check up on you. What you said is true because I'm going to look at your device. It's okay to do that. Like, we think, oh, well, that's their personal property or whatever. I don't care if they bought the phone themselves. Mm-mm. You're my kid. I want to know what you're doing and who you're talking to.
They're my personal property until I die.
My kids knew when they got vehicles, the vehicles was subject to search at any time. Mm-hmm. And same thing with their phones. I'd be like, let me see it.
Yeah.
I'd be like, Dad, no, let me see it. Mm-hmm. And I'd scroll through there and see what they're looking at and who they're texting and what they're saying. Yeah, you're right. You got to stay on top of it. You can't, because kids are going to be kids, they're going to get curious and they're going to go looking at some of these sites, man. These predators are, I tell you something that Marsha Blackburn told me, that she's pushing for some federal laws right now to make social media companies more aware of what's going on. Because every social media company's got an investigation department, supposedly. And so they're pushing the social media companies to they're putting more pressure on them to be more investigative with scams and
More
child
proactive
predators
whenever it comes to
and all
Yeah.
that stuff, which is, I mean, that's a
Yeah.
great thing. They should have been
Oh
doing that
yeah,
the whole time.
and that's a whole nother
Internet crimes.
avenue
Yeah.
that there are some saints out there doing some really good work.
My mama used to tell me to be in before 11 o'clock. She said after 11 o'clock, she said the vermin comes out after 11.
Now,
Nothing good happens after that time. That's right.
is that just be on the property, or is that going ahead and putting the horse and buggy up and walking in
That
the
was
house?
be
at 11?
home.
Oh,
man.
okay.
That was a
Okay.
be home.
I got you.
We didn't have horses and buggies back then. How much time we got?
It looks like we got about 9 minutes. But hey, listen, before I forget about it, like you said, y'all have limited funding. There have been a few times in the past where I think there was a wonder if the electric bill was going to get paid. So for all my people out there that's got a decent checkbook, if and I know St. Jude is great, the shelter is great. We've got a lot of great places that need money, but we've got something here at home, just like the shelter, that needs money. Because of what they do is such a big importance. So
How can people donate?
Yes.
Probably the easiest thing to tell you is go to our website. So it's kpcac.org. And it's a pretty easy to navigate system, but people can give one-time donations. They can give monthly, which actually helps us a lot with budgeting if you can do that. We have, there's ways that there's things I think, and I'm not a whole versed on this very well, but there's certain stores, if you shop through them, they can give a percentage back to Kids Place. But all that should be on the website. If not, always call us. We'll help you navigate something. We love to take money because it is needed.
Well,
Nobody likes to talk about it, but I appreciate that.
Well, y'all are needed, and I'm here to tell you, you don't. I didn't realize how much y'all were needed until I became a detective. So whenever I first became a detective, I was working dope. And then, for whatever rhyme or reason, they asked me to start working some child sex crimes. And I'd never been to the CAC before. Really didn't know. I mean, I've been a detective for a while. Really didn't know what the Kids Place was. But let me tell you, whenever I got my first understanding on not only who they were, but what they do, I'd rather get rid of some cops around here before I would these people. I mean, they are an absolute blessing and a necessity.
Well, fortunately, we don't have cops at the sheriff's department. We got sheriff's deputies.
Well, maybe one day you.
And there is a difference. I got to tell you about this call. So, no, it's not, but it's a funny call. So a call comes in. I don't know if they called the 911. I don't know if they called the non-emergency number or they called 911. But the call went out to the deputies is some kind of a disturbance. A lot of yelling, screaming. It sounded. I haven't heard the 911 call or the recorded call, but it sounded bad enough to where everybody went.
Okay.
I was on the north end of the county and I heard the call, and I mean all my guys at the office were headed that way, lights and sirens. It was also right around the time when we had the fire. I don't know if y'all heard about the fire that we had down off Bonnertown Road. We actually had a fatality in the fire.
Yes, I did hear about it.
Yeah. So it was right around that time. But I mean, everybody's keying up, 11 whatever en route, 11 whatever, and you can hear wow, 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 wow. Everybody's just hauling butt.
Yeah, going fast.
And then the first deputy that gets there, 1097, that's what they say when they arrived on scene, 11 whatever, 1097. And it's just quiet and everybody's waiting to hear, what's happening. And after about 30 seconds, the deputy keys up and says something along the lines of all the other units, you can back down and run regular traffic. No, you don't need to run emergency traffic or whatever here. And the dispatcher says, "Are you okay? What's going on?" And they said, "Yeah, it was two dogs fighting." That was the call.
2 dogs.
Two dogs fighting.
Okay.
Caused the whole disturbance, and we run 7, 8 deputies down there as hard as they could go. Blue lights, sirens.
2 dogs fighting.
Two dogs.
Do you see now why I say I'd rather give up some police before I give up? Because that's the
Which
type
is
of
why
stuff
we need an animal control deputy, which I'm working on. I'm working on
Yes.
getting one of them.
we need one bad.
3 minutes. So Blake, when you coming back to work? Tell everybody we're not worried about HIPAA. We need you back to work, so you need to give us a hard date.
Listen, I don't know, but I can't wait to get back.
So what did you do? Did you hurt yourself? Did you fall?
So there was, yeah. I mean, I'd like to say
Story.
I was fighting.
You didn't get away from it. I'm gonna get an answer out of it.
I'd like to say I was fighting 4 guys. You know, just
outside of a bar. And...
yeah, just giving it all. No, I'm actually somewhat embarrassed about what happened because it was like, what in the world just happened? And then it was like, oh my gosh, I've never felt this much pain before in my life. And yeah, I find out next week if I have to have surgery. So I guess pray for me, and maybe I'll be back soon.
Yeah, you need to come back to work, man. You need to get up to speed on what's going on. I feel like I'm by myself at some of these things because you don't have any information.
As honorary as you are, I'm not surprised. So how's your health? I mean, have you had a check-up lately?
I had a cardiac scoring test. I'm so
Okay.
proud of this. If you never had one, they measure the calcium around your heart to
Right.
see, your likelihood of having heart problems or whatever.
Okay.
And it ranges from like 0 to 1,000 or something,
Okay.
And the higher it is, I mean, the more likely you are you're going to have some heart trouble. Mine was 5.
5
5.
out of what? No,
Almost
what's the scale? Like
0 to 1,000.
okay, all right.
Mine was 5.
How's your
Doctor told me I'm going to live to be 120.
Well, hopefully.
You got Easter plans? Anybody got any Easter plans? You got kids. You're going to have an Easter
right.
egg.
Well, we'll have Sunday service, and then we're
Easter,
going. The Easter bunny's coming to Grandmama's house. I'm sorry.
The bunny?
The bunny, yeah. He'll be at Grandma's house. Hopefully,
Well, I don't do that
there'll
anymore.
be a lot of Reese's.
Last Easter egg hunt we
I like
had was
Reese's.
when my kids were little, and we had an all-out fight in the front yard because one of them got the golden egg.
Oh, well, yeah. You can't do that anymore.
We done? We finished?
Kids,
I thought you said 1 minute.
kids are too. Kids are too sensitive. You can't do that. Kids are too sensitive these days. But anyways,
No, it was an all-out war. You get the golden egg, and you put like a $10 bill or a $5 bill or something.
God,
But
where
you gotta
y'all
put-
having
but you
Easter
gotta put
egg
one.
hunts at?
You got to put more.
Is
You
there
got to
age
put
limit
one
on
out
it?
there for both kids, and you kind of got to guide the kid because if one kid gets both of them, that's what happened.
That's a, yeah.
and then,
That's
and
a
then
bad
you
day.
had the free for all in the front yard.
How much time we got?
30 seconds.
30 seconds. Lindsay, thank you.
Thank you.
And the ladies at the kids' place, thank you for what y'all do. I'm telling you, you're a big asset. I wouldn't want to, if I was a detective right now, I wouldn't want to do my job without you. So
One more time, if you want to donate to the kids' place,
KPCAC.org. Get on there.
did you say that right?
Give them people some good money.
All right, we're out.
We're
Thanks
out.
for coming.
Thank
See you.
you.
Bye.